I can't.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard's relationship with Ken is starting to show its cracks, and the illusion of a fairy tale romance is quickly falling apart. From what we've seen so far on Life After Lockup, it's becoming clear that Ken's feelings toward Gypsy aren't exactly what she thought they were. Instead of love and affection, what's unfolding on screen is a relationship filled with resentment, indifference, and a total lack of emotional investment on Ken's part. Gypsy may have tried to portray a picture-perfect romance to the public, but the reality behind the scenes is something entirely different. Ken's detachment has become more obvious with each interaction, leaving Gypsy in an increasingly humiliating position. One of the biggest red flags came during their therapy session, which was supposed to help them build better communication and understanding. Instead, it exposed just how disconnected they really are. Gypsy went in hoping to work through their problems, but Ken's dismissive attitude made it clear he had no real interest in making things better. While Gypsy was holding on to the hope that therapy could help them reconnect, Ken refused to engage in any meaningful way. His resistance to the process spoke volumes. He didn't see a need to change or even acknowledge Gypsy's emotional struggles. Instead, he brushed off her feelings like they were nothing. During the session, Gypsy even admitted that she didn't want to force Ken to be with her, she wanted him to want to be with her. That one statement alone revealed so much about the emotional gap between them. She was looking for reassurance, for proof that he cared, while Ken seemed more irritated by the whole situation than anything else. Watching her try to convince him to care while he remained cold and distant was nothing short of heartbreaking. It was painfully obvious that she was more invested in making things work than he was. If he truly wanted to fix their relationship, he would have put in the effort. Instead, his indifference made it clear that he was emotionally checked out.
Kids are having this fine dining experience for the show, and it's clear Ken is already in a bad mood. He practically forces GRB to try octopus, and she does it just to appease him.
Ken's disinterest in Gypsy's feelings didn't stop there. Another major moment that highlighted his lack of care was his reaction to her concerns about social media. Gypsy opened up about how it impacted her, but Ken barely even acknowledged her emotions. Instead, he brushed it off as her just spending too much time online, completely ignoring the deeper issue. Rather than trying to understand how she felt, he shut down the conversation altogether, making it clear he wasn't interested in hearing her out. This isn't just about social media, it's about how little Ken values Gypsy's emotions. In any healthy relationship, partners listen to and validate each other's feelings. Ken, on the other hand, completely disregarded hers. The way he dismissed her struggles made it clear that he wasn't willing to put in the effort to meet her emotional needs, leaving her feeling even more alone. The tension between them reached a whole new level during what was supposed to be a romantic anniversary dinner. Instead of showing care or consideration for Gypsy's feelings, Ken took complete control of the situation, ordering food for her without even asking what she wanted. It wasn't just an inconsiderate move, it was a subtle display of dominance. And when he insisted she eat octopus despite her visible discomfort, it became clear that this wasn't about the food.
Almost forces her to take a bite of this watermelon crab salad she clearly doesn't want or likes. He makes a comment to the waiter that she did not like it and that he just wanted to shame her.
It was about control. Gypsy's face said it all. She was not comfortable, yet Ken ignored her boundaries and pressured her into eating it anyway. When she finally gave in, instead of showing any support, he humiliated her in front of the waiter, making fun of her hesitation and downplaying her fears. It wasn't just that he pressured her into eating something she clearly didn't want to, he enjoyed making her feel small. The entire situation highlighted how little respect he has for her comfort and autonomy. A caring partner would notice when their significant other is uncomfortable and back off. Ken did the opposite. He pushed harder, embarrassing her in public and showing a total disregard for her feelings. The dinner, which should have been a moment of intimacy and connection, only deepened the emotional divide between them. The most heartbreaking part came when Gypsy, clearly overwhelmed, excused herself to the bathroom. Her body language and expression made it obvious that she was deeply hurt.
Pregnant here. Sounds like this has happened before, this whole incident at the restaurant. After that, Gypsy runs to the bathroom in tears. Later on, Ken asked her if she was happy about him buying.
But what did Ken do? Absolutely nothing. He didn't check on her, didn't ask if she was okay. He just carried on like nothing had happened. The contrast between Gypsy's emotional distress and Ken's complete indifference was glaring. She was visibly unraveling, yet he seemed either oblivious or simply unwilling to acknowledge her pain. Whether it was emotional cluelessness or a deliberate choice to avoid dealing with the cracks in their relationship, one thing was clear: Ken was not the loving and supportive partner Gypsy had hoped for. As more of their relationship plays out on screen, fans are starting to see the real dynamic between them. Ken isn't hiding his disinterest, he's making it blatantly obvious. And while Gypsy is desperately trying to hold on to the illusion of love, the reality is becoming impossible to ignore. The cracks in their relationship aren't just showing, they're shattering the fantasy Gypsy tried to sell to the world.
And whether or not he thinks that they can make it work and have a happy home. It was painfully obvious that Ken does not want to be in this situation.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard's relationship with Ken is beginning to unravel in ways that suggest it was never built on a strong foundation. While Gypsy appears to be holding on to the idea of a lasting love story, Ken's behavior tells a different story. His lack of emotional investment is evident in every interaction, making it increasingly clear that he is not as committed to this relationship as she is. A genuinely caring partner would recognize when their significant other is in distress, offering support and reassurance. Instead, Ken's indifference only adds to the emotional strain Gypsy is feeling, leaving her in a vulnerable and humiliating position. From the very beginning, Ken's presence in Gypsy's life has raised questions. His past before stepping into the public eye was vastly different from the life he is now experiencing. As a bartender with no significant public recognition, he lived a relatively quiet and unnoticed life. However, everything changed when he became associated with Gypsy and appeared on Life After Lockup. The sudden exposure brought him a level of fame, financial stability, and new opportunities that would have otherwise been out of reach.
What was said in a recent interview, that marriage would be possible down the line. It's almost like he feels obligated, which his mother practically confirmed.
The contrast between his previous life and his current situation makes it difficult to ignore the possibility that his commitment to Gypsy is more about the benefits that come with the relationship rather than genuine love. His lack of emotional engagement suggests that staying with Gypsy may be more of a calculated decision and an act of devotion. Adding another layer to this situation is the strong influence of Gypsy's stepmother, Christy, who has played a significant role in keeping Ken in the picture. Despite all the visible warning signs, Christy has remained one of Ken's biggest defenders, constantly making excuses for his dismissive and detached behavior. Rather than acknowledging the clear disconnect between Gypsy and Ken, she has continued to push for them to stay together, even when it is evident that the relationship is crumbling. This raises the question of whether Christy is simply in denial about the reality of their situation, or if she is more concerned with the appearance of stability rather than the actual health of the relationship. Her insistence on keeping them together may be adding even more pressure on Ken, making it difficult for him to walk away even if he wants to. Ken's lack of emotional depth becomes more apparent with each passing day. His actions, or lack thereof, indicate that he is staying in this relationship for reasons that have nothing to do with love. Whether it is the allure of continued reality TV exposure, financial security, or the external pressures from Gypsy's family, there is little evidence to suggest that his commitment is rooted in any real affection. Gypsy, on the other hand, seems to be holding on to the hope that their relationship is something meaningful, despite all the signs pointing to the contrary. She has continued to seek validation and emotional reassurance from Ken, only to be met with indifference and avoidance. As the situation unfolds, it becomes increasingly clear that Ken's motivations are self-serving. Rather than being an engaged and supportive partner, He appears to be going through the motions for the sake of maintaining the lifestyle and benefits that come with being associated with Gypsy. The pressure from Christy only complicates matters further, reinforcing an already unhealthy dynamic and making it more difficult for Gypsy to see the reality of her situation. Ken's continued presence in Gypsy's life seems to be based on convenience rather than any deep emotional connection. While Gypsy may still believe in their relationship, the growing emotional distance between them tells a different story. The longer this dynamic continues, the more apparent it becomes that their relationship is a fragile illusion. With Ken remaining emotionally detached and Gypsy struggling to keep things together, the reality of their situation is becoming impossible to ignore. And that's the latest on Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Ken's unraveling relationship. What do you think? Is Ken just sticking around for the clout, or is there more to the story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so you never miss an update on the latest drama. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.